She thought she was repairing a painting until the figures inside started coming to life. The film is set in Italy in 1993. The story follows a woman named Lisa, an American art restoration expert who travels to Italy to complete an important project. While on her way to a village called Sambuci, Lisa meets 3 people who board the same bus. They are Tracy, Madison, and a tour guide named Tony. After sitting near each other, they begin introducing themselves and chatting throughout the journey. Knowing that all 3 of them speak English makes Lisa feel relieved, since she cannot speak Italian. Their conversation flows naturally until they realize they are all heading to the same destination, Sambuci.
Can I stay here? Absolutely. Have a seat.
Hey, my name is Tony.
Hi, Tony. I'm Tracy. Oh, Lisa. Madison. Hi.
I'm their Italian guide, and I take care of all the technical stuff.
Where are you all going?
Sambuci.
I'm also...
Since they get along well, they agree to meet again once they have finished their own business. By the time night falls, they finally arrive in Sambuci. Since the story takes place in 1993, the village appears quiet and traditional, far removed from the atmosphere of a modern city. Because Lisa is staying somewhere else, she parts ways with Tracy, Madison, and Tony for the time being.
Where are you guys staying?
We'll put down our tents at the edge of the woods where we'll live.
Well, my hotel's that way. Good luck to you guys. Bye.
See ya.
The following morning, Lisa plans to continue her journey by bus. However, after waiting for quite a while, not a single bus arrives. That is when a local man named Marcus approaches her and explains that the bus stop has not been serviced by public transportation for a long time. After learning where Lisa is headed, Marcus realizes that her destination is not far from where he works. He kindly offers to take her there himself. Along the way, the two get to know each other better. Marcus explains that the person who hired Lisa is a wealthy woman named Emma Malvisi. He also mentions that he owns a bar located directly across from the Malvisi estate. According to Marcus, Emma is known as a kind woman who is well respected by the local residents.
There it is. That's the entrance right there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
of
so
course.
much.
The widow Malvisi, she's very nice.
Not long afterward, Lisa arrives at the Grand Malvisi mansion. There, she finally meets Emma Malvisi, the woman who hired her for the restoration project. Knowing that Lisa is the daughter of a famous art restoration expert, Emma seems very confident in her abilities. Emma then shows her a large, ancient painting, the very reason she was brought there. The painting is in terrible condition, with its entire surface covered in black soot caused by a fire from a fireplace. Fortunately, the canvas itself has not been severely damaged, making restoration possible. Emma explains that the painting dates back to the 1500s and is extremely valuable. After examining it, Lisa estimates that the restoration process will take about a month. However, Emma wants it completed much sooner because the painting is scheduled to be auctioned off soon. She gives Lisa only 2 weeks to finish the entire project. Naturally, the request puts Lisa under a great deal of pressure, but since she has already accepted the job, she has no choice but to do her best to finish on time. Without wasting any time, Lisa immediately gets to work. To an ordinary person, what she is doing might look like nothing more than cleaning dirt from an old painting. In reality, art restoration requires extraordinary precision and skill, and Lisa is considered one of the best in her field. As time passes, more and more of the original image hidden beneath the black layer begins to emerge. While concentrating on her work, Lisa is suddenly distracted by the sound of singing coming from somewhere inside the mansion. Following the voice, she discovers a young girl singing on a balcony. However, when Lisa tries to approach her, the girl simply walks away without saying a word. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Tony, Tracy, and Madison spend the night camping in the middle of a forest. Interested in recording natural sounds, Tony sets up audio equipment and listens through a headset. In the silence of the night, he hears a strange sound that sparks his curiosity. He leaves to inspect the microphone he placed earlier. Shortly afterward, a scream echoes through the forest, waking Madison and Tracy. Realizing Tony is no longer in his tent, Madison immediately searches the area. Instead of finding Tony, she discovers his hat covered in blood. Sensing that something is terribly wrong, Madison quickly returns to the campsite. Unfortunately, before she can do anything, an unknown person suddenly attacks both her and Tracy.
Something bad.
Sometime later, Madison wakes up inside a filthy and damp prison cell. There, she discovers that she's not alone. Along with Tracy and Tony, there is also a man named Rocco who had been captured earlier. All of them are locked inside separate cells secured by heavy iron doors.
Where the fuck are we? Maddie? Tracy? Tony, we're here. Try to sit down. What's going on? Where are we?
Back at the Malvisi mansion, Lisa finishes her first day of work. Emma comes to inspect the progress she has made so far. After reviewing the restoration, Emma seems pleased and confident that Lisa will be able to complete the project within the deadline. During their conversation, Lisa mentions the young girl she saw singing on the balcony. Emma explains that the girl is her daughter, Julia. According to Emma, Julia is extremely shy and uncomfortable around new people.
For a first day's work, I would say we're on the right track. Will you be dining with us tonight? Meet my daughter, Julia.
Later that evening, Lisa joins Emma and Julia for dinner. Throughout the meal, Emma is friendly and spends much of the time discussing the restoration project with Lisa. Julia, however, sits quietly and barely participates in the conversation. Curious, Lisa tries to break the ice by asking about Julia's schooling. Instead of answering, the girl abruptly leaves the table without saying a word. Seeing her daughter's reaction, Emma explains that Julia suffers from a severe personality disorder, which forced her to leave school.
Julia, what grade are you in? Did I say something wrong?
She doesn't get along with anyone her age. Personality disorder. I had to stop sending her to school. It's like she doesn't accept being 13.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea.
Not wanting to interfere too much in another family's personal matters, Lisa decides to end the conversation and head to bed early so she can resume work the following day. Meanwhile, deep beneath an old structure resembling an underground prison, Madison, Tracy, Tony, and Rocco remained trapped inside their separate cells. Not long afterward, someone entered the chamber. The man appeared to be under the influence of some unknown force and behaved in a very strange manner. Since his name is never revealed, we will refer to him as John. In the center of the prison stood an old well positioned between the rows of cells. As John approached the well, Tony repeatedly shouted and begged to be released. However, his pleas were completely ignored. John calmly continued his routine by lowering a bucket into the well. Strangely, no sound of water could be heard, yet moments later, he pulled the bucket back up. Tony's constant shouting eventually tested John's patience. Desperate to escape, Tony attempted to fight back and attack him. Unfortunately, the difference in strength between them was overwhelming. John easily overpowered Tony and beat him until he could no longer resist. Afterward, he threw Tony into the well in the middle of the room. Moments later, the prisoners could still hear Tony screaming from the depths below, proving that he was still alive when he was thrown in. After John left, Madison noticed a drainage tunnel that Rocco had discovered inside his cell. It appeared to be the only possible escape route from the horrifying place. The problem was that the opening was covered by thick iron bars that could not be removed by hand. Rocco had already been trying to figure out a way to get through them, but he had no tools to work with. Realizing the situation, Madison tossed her folding knife toward him.
What are you doing? Fuck! Try using this.
After successfully grabbing it, Rocco immediately began scraping away at the bars little by little. The process was slow and difficult because the metal was extremely sturdy, but he had no other choice. He could only hope that his efforts would eventually create a path to freedom for all of them. The following day, Lisa continued restoring the ancient painting owned by the Malvisi family. The more of the black layer she removed, the clearer the horrifying figure at the center of the artwork became. While working, she suddenly heard a scream that startled her so badly, she accidentally cut her finger. Despite the pain, she forced herself to continue working until nightfall. Not long afterward, the weather began to worsen and the mansion suddenly lost power. In the darkness and silence, Lisa noticed the figure of a man standing nearby. She immediately recognized him as her father. Naturally, she was confused because her father should not have been there. The figure looked at her and said that he should never have trusted her. Moments later, he committed a horrifying act by slashing his own throat. However, it did not take long for Lisa to realize that everything she had just witnessed was merely an illusion.
That night, after finishing another day of work, Lisa tried to get some rest in her room. However, the strange disturbances returned once again. In the middle of the night, she suddenly woke up and saw Tracy pushing Tony in a wheelchair. Tony looked horribly injured, while Tracy desperately begged Lisa for help. The vision felt so real that it sent her into a panic. Moments later, however, she realized it had only been another nightmare. Unable to fall back asleep, Lisa decided to visit Marcus. She honestly told him about all the strange experiences she had been having ever since she began restoring the painting. Lisa admitted that she was becoming frightened and wanted to leave the mansion. The problem was that she could not simply walk away from the project because the financial penalty would be severe enough to destroy both her business and her studio. Hearing her concerns, Marcus once again tried to reassure her. He insisted that nothing strange had ever happened in the area and suggested that everything she was experiencing was most likely the result of exhaustion and work-related stress. He encouraged her to finish the restoration as quickly as possible so she could finally rest and put all the pressure behind her.
I want to leave. If I do that, the studio will be destroyed. I don't feel safe.
No, it's okay. I promise. It's just nightmares. Nothing ever happens here.
After speaking with Marcus, Lisa returned to the mansion determined to complete the restoration as soon as possible. To stay awake and keep working, she even took medication to fight off fatigue. While in the bathroom, she suddenly heard the sound of someone crying. Following the noise, Lisa was horrified to find Madison lying inside the bathtub in a gruesome condition. The sight terrified her so much that she screamed hysterically, causing Emma to rush over and investigate.
What's going on here? You getting at 3 in the morning?
However, instead of showing concern for Lisa's condition, Emma focused entirely on the restoration work, which she believed was progressing too slowly. Lisa finally admitted that she could no longer bear staying in the mansion. Nevertheless, Emma firmly refused to let her leave. She even warned Lisa that if she failed to finish the restoration before the deadline, she would regret it. Meanwhile, in the underground prison, only Tracy and Rocco remained alive. After working on it for days, Rocco finally managed to remove the cover, blocking the drainage tunnel he had secretly been cutting through. Seeing a chance to escape, he promised Tracy that he would find help and come back for her. However, while attempting to escape through the passage, Rocco unexpectedly encountered the same monstrous creature that John had been feeding all this time. Without realizing it, the tunnel he believed would lead to freedom had actually led straight to the creature's lair. As a result, Rocco became its next victim and unknowingly sacrificed himself. Time continued to pass until the final day of Lisa's deadline finally arrived. After working tirelessly for days, only a small portion of the painting remained unfinished. The more of the black coating she removed, the clearer the horrifying story hidden within the artwork became. At the same time, Julia came to see her once again. This time, she appeared far more serious than before. Julia warned Lisa that if she completed the restoration, she would end up sharing the same fate as all the previous victims. Naturally, Lisa had no idea what she meant. Realizing there was no other choice, Julia finally revealed the secret her family had been hiding for centuries. According to her, the painting was created in the year 1493 as part of a ritual intended to summon a demon named Goran. The ritual required the corpse of a child as an offering. Since then, Emma and Julia had managed to survive for centuries by using Goran's blood. Julia went on to explain that the restoration had never been about preparing the painting for an auction. The painting needed to be fully restored before the arrival of the blood moon later that night. If the red moonlight touched the completed painting, the contract between Emma and Goran would be renewed for another 500 years. While Emma viewed eternal life as a blessing, Julia saw it as a curse that had stolen her entire existence. She had been trapped in the same body for centuries and could never experience a normal life like everyone else. Of course, the story sounded far too unbelievable to accept at face value, but Julia had a way to prove that everything she was saying was true. She revealed that Madison, Tracy, and Tony had been captured to serve as sacrifices. If Lisa still doubted her, she could go down into the hidden chambers beneath the mansion and see the truth for herself. After hearing Julia's confession, Lisa finally decided to find proof for herself, while Julia agreed to distract her mother so Lisa would not get caught.
Where they keep the prisoners? Julia, dove sei? I have to go.
From a distance, Lisa spotted John walking toward the underground prison. Although she was terrified, she gathered her courage and followed him. Before heading down, she grabbed an object that could be used for self-defense and quietly trailed behind him. Lisa watched as John entered a hidden door that led into the prison area. After making sure the coast was clear, she carefully followed him inside. Moving as quietly as possible, Lisa continued following John's footsteps until she accidentally knocked over several pieces of metal, creating a loud noise. Hearing the sound, John immediately stopped and began searching for its source, while Lisa quickly found a place to hide. From her hiding spot, she noticed piles of human flesh scattered throughout the area. The gruesome sight forced her to hold her breath, terrified that any sound might reveal her location. Unable to find anyone, John eventually returned to the prison cells. At that point, Tracy was the only captive left alive. She was terrified, fully aware that she would most likely be the next victim. And sure enough, John had come to claim her as the next sacrifice. Tracy fought back and tried to escape with everything she had, but John's strength was far greater than hers. During her desperate attempt to flee, she fell and struck her head, losing consciousness. When she finally opened her eyes again, she found herself hanging over the edge of the well, only moments away from being thrown inside. Fortunately, before it was too late, Lisa rushed in and attacked John. After managing to overpower him, Lisa quickly pulled Tracy to safety. The two women immediately ran for the exit, but in the middle of their escape, Tracy stepped on a nail and severely injured her foot. Meanwhile, John slowly regained consciousness. Realizing that he still needed to provide a sacrifice for Goran, he prepared to continue the ritual. However, he had no idea that Rocco had already become the creature's prey. With no other victim left to offer, John ultimately chose to sacrifice himself and willingly became Goran's next meal in order to fulfill his duty. Elsewhere, Lisa and Tracy finally managed to escape from the underground prison. Not long afterward, Marcus suddenly appeared in front of them. At first, Lisa assumed he had come to help. Instead, Marcus fired a crossbow bolt directly at Tracy, killing her instantly. In that moment, Lisa finally realized that Marcus had been working with Emma all along and was deeply involved in the horrifying rituals taking place inside the mansion. Marcus then forced Lisa back into the painting chamber. Time was quickly running out as midnight was rapidly approaching. Waiting inside were Emma and her loyal male servant. Meanwhile, Dorca, the witch whom Lisa had only known through the painting and her disturbing visions, finally appeared in person to take part in the ritual. Lisa had no choice but to continue restoring the nearly completed painting. By now, most of the image that had remained hidden for centuries was finally visible. Lisa could clearly see both Emma and Marcus depicted within the painting, confirming that they had always been part of the same ritual. She also noticed Emma holding a manuscript containing the incantation that needed to be recited in order to renew the pact with Goran. Just as the ritual was about to begin, Julia suddenly appeared carrying a container of oil. Without hesitation, she splashed it all over the painting and threatened to set it on fire. After spending 500 years trapped in the body of a child, Julia could no longer endure a life that felt more like a curse than a blessing. Tension reached its peak as midnight drew closer. Emma, who had spent centuries waiting for this moment, began to panic because time was running out while the painting still had not been fully restored. Realizing that Julia could ruin everything, Emma ordered Marcus to shoot her with a crossbow. However, before Marcus could pull the trigger, Lisa hurled a corrosive liquid at him, causing him to cry out in pain. Lisa's interference only made Emma even more furious. Without hesitation, she grabbed Marcus's weapon and fired a bolt directly at Lisa. But amidst the chaos, the little time they had left finally ran out. As the red moon began to shine, part of the painting remained unfinished, preventing the moonlight from illuminating the entire image as required. As a result, the ritual incantation could not be performed, and the pact between Emma and Goran failed to be renewed. Instantly, Emma, Dorca, and everyone who had been sustained by that ancient agreement began suffering the consequences. Their bodies rapidly aged before eventually crumbling into dust. Julia was the last to experience the effect. For the first time in centuries, she briefly saw herself in the form she should have had as an adult before she too crumbled into dust. However, the collapse of Emma's contract created an even greater problem. As Lisa attempted to escape the mansion, Goran finally emerged from his hiding place. No longer bound by any agreement, the creature was free and immediately began searching for new prey. Injured and trapped inside the mansion, Lisa had nowhere left to run. Realizing that her life was hanging by a thread, she made a desperate decision. She rushed back and completed the final portion of the restoration that had remained unfinished. Once the entire painting was finally exposed to the light of the red moon, Lisa recited the incantation written within the manuscript depicted in the painting and forged a new pact with Goran. That decision saved her life, but it came at a heavy price. Lisa was now bound to Goran for the next 500 years. The story then jumps forward 30 years. Despite 3 decades having passed, Lisa appears almost exactly the same as she did when she first arrived in Sambusi. Unlike Emma, who relied on ancient rituals and human sacrifices, Lisa chose a far more modern approach. She successfully imprisoned Goran using advanced technology and began harvesting the creature's blood to preserve her youth. Eventually, Goran's blood became more than just a tool for Lisa's survival. It was mass-produced and sold exclusively to wealthy clients willing to pay enormous sums in exchange for eternal youth. In the end, the being once feared as a terrifying demon became the center of a highly profitable business. Goran was reduced to nothing more than a captive whose blood was endlessly harvested to satisfy the demands of the rich and powerful who longed for immortality. And with that, the story comes to an end.